Welcome back to the channel. This is the Casuals. I'm Jin.
And I'm Saki.
Today's episode is pet peeves with power washing. Power washing pet peeves. Let's do that. Got
Triple
that?
P.
Yeah, triple P. The triple P's. Or we could just call this pet peeves and call it the PP episode. But I don't know if this video will be allowed to have that title. So we'll just call it power washing pet peeves or some other title. I'll make sure it has at least 3 P's. And so, as suggested, we'll be talking about our pet peeves today. I'm sure you have many, and I'm sure, I have a few of my own. So yeah, I guess we'll get started in cleaning this. It has certainly been a while since we've played power washing together.
What, like a month? If not longer?
Yeah, it certainly has been. Oh my god, this is gonna be very hard to go through. So yeah, pet peeves. I'm sure everyone has pet peeves in their lives. Even the most Buddha-esque person alive will have their own pet peeves, I'm sure. Because it's hard to not be annoyed at something, right? There's always something in your life that you're gonna get annoyed by. I guess it's more like, what degree of annoyance do you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, here, I guess I'll talk about, I guess my first pet peeves, and I'm sure many people can relate to, and that is related to driving. And one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to driving is people who lane swap just to get ahead faster when it's like heavier traffic, if that makes sense.
I understand that. I thought you were going somewhere else with it, so.
Mm.
But yeah, I understand that. I understand lane swapping, but like if the driver's slow or something, but yeah, if you're in like bumper to bumper traffic and you're lane swapping, like there's no point. You're gonna okay, congrats, you got there 2 seconds ahead before anyone else. Like, is it really worth it?
Yeah, and I guess this isn't like, this is like somewhat to an extension to this. I really dislike it when I see like, like normal traffic, like freeway traffic, right? Where it's like not that many, like a good amount of cars, but not that much, right?
Uh-huh.
And you can go at like, let's say 70 miles per hour in all the lanes. What I really dislike are those people who go like 90 plus and they just like swap like crazy between lanes, avoiding cars.
Yeah, that's just dangerous first. And honestly, though, people that are like heavily like speeding like that, going 90 plus, or the ones going under, like under, I think what's minimum 60?
60, I believe, yeah.
See, if people are going like 40 or something, I'm like, and you're not in the very right lane, which is the slower lane, then you need to get out of people's way because that's also could cause accidents.
Yes. Oh yeah, I just do not like those like those type of lane swappers. Obviously, there's normal lane swapping where it's needed and perfectly justified. But I always see those like, especially when the higher traffic one's like, ha, like we stopped at the same light in the end, right? Because you were like going bumper to, or you were like swapping between lanes just to get ahead, like 5 seconds. It's like, nope, you're still stuck at this traffic light, and then I just start like thinking to myself, like, serves you right.
Yeah. I hear ya.
I always think to myself, right, like, okay, I can't necessarily put this as a blanket statement because there are certain people who have, like, I guess, like, for example, excuse would be like, oh, I have to get to my job, right, on time. And I understand some people have bosses or management that are very, very particular about clock in times, correct, right?
Yep.
And so, like, even if you're a minute late, they'll give you hell and maybe even, like, who knows, unlawfully fire you, and most people are not in the luxury position to get fired from their job. But I still can't help but think, like, is it worth risking your life, especially when you're doing it dangerously? Is it worth risking your life just to get to your job on time, or like, can you allow like at least like 5 minutes being late? Right? Is it that egregious for you to be 5 minutes late in the overall grand of scheme of things?
See, for me, I'm usually never late. If I'm late, that's shocking. For me, if you're gonna be late, why don't you leave earlier? Instead of trying to swerve around and like potentially cause an accident. You could leave 5 minutes earlier, and that could solve all your problems.
Hmm.
That's what I think when people are like swerving around everyone. I'm just like, go around me then, because I left on time.
Hmm.
Like, that's not my fault. You have bad time management or whatever. Like, I don't want to be in your car crash because you didn't leave on time.
And that is perfectly reasonable, to be honest. Like, maybe a one-time thing. I don't know if I can excuse that or not. Just because if you're still driving dangerously, hey, you're driving dangerously. But if it's consistently, right? You're consistently like trying to rush within the next to get into your job like 5 minutes, within the next 5 minutes. Like, come on, just do what Saki says. Go out 5 minutes earlier than usual.
Yeah, if you know you're gonna be late or like you're running late, like maybe next time leave 5 minutes early or whatever, you know?
I think some comedian put it the best, right? It's gonna be a little bit out there, but I guess if I could relate it, because I remember this. He was contemplating about this, like, remember how everyone had common sense back then? If there wasn't a hole in the ground, right? Like, let's say there's doing construction work and there's a hole in the ground. Common sense would tell you walk around that and just keep on moving along. But nowadays you have to have signs everywhere saying don't go there, watch out for this hole. And he's like, what happened to the people that would just simply look at the hole and be like, I'll walk right around?
They walked around and left it open for everyone else.
Yeah. And so, I guess in the same kind of sense, it's like, if you're consistently late, just make adjustments? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously. Maybe don't stop for your Starbucks coffee. Just, leave a couple minutes earlier, then you won't be late. You're not rushing. See if you're gonna get fired or not because you're late. It could be avoidable. So you don't have to like swerve and drive like a maniac and risk your life and potentially others because of your your mistakes, pretty much.
Yeah. So that was basically my first pet peeve about those type, or like just those type of drivers. I really do not like encountering those type of drivers because in the end, like it just feels very uncomfortable being on the same road as them when they're kind of unpredictable, to be honest.
Yeah, they are unpredictable. You don't know which way they're gonna go. And I'd rather not guess, so I would just do your own thing and let them go around you.
Yeah.
Because then you're not potentially blocking them trying from doing what they're gonna do.
Yeah. So what about you? What is your pet peeve? Or at least one of them.
I guess one pet peeve for me, since we're on the topic of cars, I can keep it going. Uh, I have a pet peeve of cars never using what's called a turn signal. They are installed in your car for a reason. Use them. It's not difficult. We're not.
Oh man.
We are not gonna try to read your mind because you're too lazy to flick a lever like fourth of an inch.
The amount of times we encounter drivers who just do not use their turn signal and just turn into your lane is insane.
Yeah, I don't want to say like if there's a type of car that people don't use your signals. BMWs. Yeah, like it's really not that difficult. It can save you from an accident. How are we supposed to know which way you're going? We can't read your mind. It's not difficult, people. That's why they have them in the cars.
It's like the only comment you can really make too, because it's really not that difficult. What's stopping them from doing it?
Lazy. Like, I'm glad, like, I know, I forget, someone I knew, when they took their driver's license,
Mhm.
or their driving portion of the test, you know,
Mhm.
they went out, and once the instructor got in, they're like, okay, you're gonna go out, you know, make a left onto the street, and we'll start the test, you know. So he's like, okay. So what he did, he got out to the street, and he made his left turn onto the street. And the instructor told him to make another left and went immediately back into the parking lot. And he failed because he didn't turn his signal on. And yep, literally the test took him less than 30 seconds and he failed.
He didn't signal when he turned back there, did he?
He did not signal when, no, he didn't signal in there either. And and the instructor was like, do you know why I had you come back? He's like, no. He's like, you didn't turn your signal on. And he was like, oh. And he's like, yeah, you failed. Sorry. You're going to have to come back another time.
That's crazy.
I mean, I like that instructor or the person at the DMV, like, doing the test.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
good for you. Like, honestly, people need to learn how to use those.
I was thinking, it's like, that's crazy, dude. You know you're taking a test and you fail that, like, out of all things.
Yeah. Didn't even made it, did barely got on the street, too. Did not use your turn signal and immediately failed.
Dang. It's kind of special, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. It's not even that difficult.
Dang, yeah. People who don't use their turn signal, another pet peeve I'm sure many people can relate to.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, my second pet peeve. This one isn't like scathing or something. Like, it isn't something I get really annoyed by, but I still do get annoyed when it happens. And it's when, what's it called? When you're having a conversation. Not conversation, sorry. When you're like showing someone something, right? And while you're showing someone something, they like kind of just look away or look at their phones. I kind of like
yeah, no, I understand that.
like I get it. It's very hard to, like, if you're disinterested, right? It's very hard to tell the person up front that you're not interested in whatever you're showing. And it is very, like, I acknowledge that it is very difficult just to kind of like navigate through that situation where if you don't want to see any more of whatever that person's showing. But at the very least, right? Make it look like you're, paying attention. Because I think, like, just pulling out the phone or something, or just looking away, like, and not even hiding it, is really disrespectful. And it does annoy me when that happens, and I've encountered it many times. It's gotten to the point where I just just stopped showing people stuff a lot now. Like, so yeah, that's a pet peeve, but it's also a tricky one because there are times where that person who is showing whatever they're showing off is genuinely uninteresting and to the other person, and like they couldn't catch on to like that cue, social cue, as they would like to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I would at least like to have some, I would like to see some effort to not, like, outright ignore them.
I hear you. I have one. After you're done, I wanna. I could piggyback on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like my personal experience is that I remember when I was showing someone to something, and then they were, or when I was talking to someone too, even about like something I was going on off about. Person just kind of started looking at their phone. I was just like, should I continue? Do you care? Like, and then when it just looks even more disingenuous when you're like, hey, like, should I just continue this, or do you want to just talk about something else or do something else? And they're like, no, 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 it's fine, I'm paying attention. And then they just look at the phone. I'm like, are you really paying attention? Like, I can't tell, to be honest. And like, it just starts making you question, or just started making me question myself. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna drop this because clearly you're more interested in whatever's on your phone,
True. That's understandable.
But I didn't really get like too like annoyed or anything. It did annoy me too a little bit, but it's like, I don't know if what I was showing was truly just boring.
I have a thing, like, I can understand, like, let's say you wanted to show someone something. Like, let's say they're doing something, right? The other person. Let's say they're doing something, and then you're coming along, you're like, hey, let me show you this. You're like, oh, I'm kind of busy. And you still show them anyway.
Oh, yeah.
That's when it's like, they're kind of busy. Like, why don't you come back,
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, for me, that's like, okay, I'm a little busy right now. Can you come back later when I have some time or something? But they just don't care. They're just like, hey, wait, I need to show you this. It's like, well, then it's kind of like, okay, let me drop everything so you can show me this. Like, then it's like, okay.
Oh, definitely, yeah. That's like, that's definitely unpleasant as the person on the receiving end.
Yeah. They're just like busy, and then you're like, hey, I want to show you something. Drop it. So I can drop everything you're doing because I want to show you this. That's when it's like, no, no. I'm good.
Thank you for your suggestion, but I will not consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's me, though.
No, that's completely reasonable, too, because, in my scenario, I guess in my thoughts, right, in that scenario where you're trying to show off something to someone, like, I think it would be, like, just a normal conversation where both are not busy. And in the scenario that you presented, like, yeah, that's definitely, like, if they ignore you, then that's on you, Because you're kind of just budging your way into there.
Yeah, but if you're just, like, already casually talking or something, and then they do that, that's just a dick move.
Yeah. And that's happened to me many times with other people. I think one of them would, like, I remember one of them back then, back in high school, whatever, we were talking about something. I was like, oh, yeah, I got something to show you in relation to that. And I start showing them, and then they just start looking at their own phone. I'm just like, okay. Like, they didn't just stop paying attention. They didn't even look. I was just like, oh, I see. Well, I guess we're not talking about this anymore.
Yeah. Some people.
Yeah, just another little pet peeve of mine.
I guess another one of my pet peeves is when people are talking, and apparently it's to you, but they don't address who they're talking to. They're just talking. And then they look at you like they're expecting a reply back, and you're like, oh shit, you were talking to me? You just started talking. I don't know who the hell you're talking to. So instead of saying, hey Jin, blah 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 blah, they just go, blah 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 blah, right? And you're like, huh? And they're like, come on, you weren't paying attention? I'm like, I didn't know you were even talking to me. Like, address the person you're talking to so they know to pay attention. That's another pet peeve of mine. Like people are like talking to me, and I have no idea they're talking to me because they didn't say, "Hey, Saki, what do you think of this?" They just go, "What do you think of this?" Blah 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 blah, and I'm like, "Was that meant for me?" Like, sorry, I wasn't paying attention because I didn't know you were talking to me.
Yeah, that can be very annoying. Because they already have the expectation there.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Well, you didn't tell me you were talking to me. I thought you were talking to this person." Or
You know, I do
unless
that. Uh-huh.
unless it's a one-on-one setting.
Hmm.
But if you're in like a group and they just start talking, they expect you to answer, and you're like, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking to that person." You
I
know what
do
I
that.
mean?
Uh-huh.
I was like, you know what I mean? Address the person you're talking to.
Yeah, I do that a lot actually, where I don't address the person I'm talking to. But that's not because. But like, when that happens and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were talking to me," I'm like, "Oh shit, my bad," you know? Because I don't realize it that they were like I didn't communicate or it clearly that I was talking to them.
Mm.
So I feel really awkward that I didn't do that. I'm like, well, I feel like a dumbass now.
It's like, oh, right. There's a group of people I didn't tell. I didn't
Yeah.
talk to.
I do that a lot though, like in a lot of group settings, is where it's like where I think I'm talking to someone, or they know that, or I think that they know that I'm talking to them, and they're like, what? You're talking to me? I'm like, ah, whoops. But I don't think I've ever really had that response of like, yeah, like I was expecting your response, like, oh no, whoops, my bad.
Yeah, some people are like that though. They're like, oh, you weren't paying attention. I'm like, I honestly didn't think you were talking to me.
Yeah, I usually, thankfully, I'm not like that. At least from my point of view, I don't ever. Whenever something like that situation happens, like I don't, I can't, I would not have the balls to say, "Oh, you weren't paying attention."
Or just like, oh, like you didn't listen, kind of thing. I was like, well, I didn't know you were talking to me. You have to
Yeah,
clearly state that, especially in a setting where you're with a bunch of other people.
yeah. I'm guilty of doing that, but at the very least, at the very least, I don't make accusations of the other people.
Yeah, it's just like, okay, dude, let's calm down a little.
And oftentimes that happens because I'm so lost in thought too. Because like I like to think to myself and then I just blurt it out, and then it's like, technically it's like let's just say it's towards Yusaki, right?
Uh-huh.
But then like it's more like whoever was closest to me, I'm addressing it. But then it's like as if I'm talking to myself. So you're just like, were you talking to me? Or I'm just like, oh yeah, sorry. Because I'm like half lost in thought, you know.
Yep. It do be like that sometimes.
Because like sometimes when someone's having a group conversation, right, and they're like, yeah, like I saw, let's just say like, I saw this race car or like race show, right, whatever, like the F1 race, and it was really awesome. And then suddenly my mind goes like, F1 race. What if they made a lesser version of F1 and just called it a B1 or like a, you know what I mean, or a G1 race, or no, not G1, E1 race, right? And then I start blurting out that loud. I'm like, hey, what do you guys think the official race would be called for E1 instead of Formula? Would it be called Equation 1? But then like I say that out loud, thinking that I'm like half talking, like I'm like in the mindset of like, oh yeah, this whole time I was talking to someone. But then the only thing that comes out is, what do you think about an E1? And people are just like, what? And then they're like, who are you talking to? I'm like, oh, I thought I was talking to you guys. My bad.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Happens to me a lot too. Like they're talking to me. I had no idea they're talking to me, and I'm like, sorry, wasn't listening. Uh, didn't know you were talking to me. You were kind of just like talking in my general direction,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know you were, talking to me.
Yeah. There was 3 other people in the vicinity. It could have been any one of us.
Yeah, like honestly.
Yeah, that's definitely something that other people can relate to. Ooh, I guess another pet peeve of mine is, how do you say this? when people don't acknowledge their mistakes.
Ooh. Or they try to blame others.
Yes.
Oh, I hate that.
I think it really annoys me because you know what the type of person I am. I always try to make up for my mistakes, right? I always own it up.
Yep.
Or if I do not own it up, right, it takes me a while for me to realize what was wrong, and then I like, after it takes me a while, but I eventually get to that point where like, oh, like shoot, it's my mistake, right? And you know me, I apologize a lot.
Yes, you do. Even if it wasn't your fault at all. They're trying to get you to break that habit.
Oh,
You're like, let's say we're in just walking around, someone pushes you, right?
uh-huh.
You say sorry. I'm like, dude, they pushed you, man. What the hell? Like, why are you apologizing? They're the one who pushed you or bumped into you. Like,
Yeah. But and you see me where I've made mistakes, I always try rectifying such mistakes, or I try and avoiding the same mistake again.
yes.
And so like whenever I see people just disregard their mistake, I'm just like, how, right? How do you have the conscience to do that?
Right.
And it annoys me because it's like when you make mistakes, the worst thing you could do is deny it, right? Especially when people know it's your mistake.
Yeah, like if they know you're in the wrong and you're just trying to avoid out of getting in trouble or whatever, that's the worst. So at that point, you're just in denial.
Yeah. And by all means, like, I am not a perfect person or an outstanding, upright person morally. But if there's one thing I was taught, right, is that when you make mistakes, just be honest about it and own up to it. Like, because at the very least, you have the intent to try and fix it, right? And people will not hold you against that, trying to fix such issues or mistakes.
Right.
But yeah, that's just... Uh-huh.
Like, moral is be honest.
Yeah. Be honest. It gets you further than lying. Or, I mean, not further than lying, but it gets you in a lot less... Or when things go wrong, telling the truth is a lot better than telling a lie.
Oh yeah, because then it'll just get way worse.
Yeah. And I'm sure you've come across a fair share of people who do not own up to their mistakes and try lying their way out of it.
Or they literally just blame you. I've been blamed for shit, and I'm like, yeah, that never happened. They just make something up so it doesn't make them look bad, or they don't get blamed.
Be
And
honest, people.
yeah, honestly, just say sorry. Like if you forgot to do something, they're like, oh hey, where is this? Like, they're like, oh yeah, I did that, but like this thing happened. Just say no, I forgot.
Yeah.
It's makes you look less stupid too.
I'm sure many people can relate to this pet peeve too. Where they've seen someone make a mistake and then they get blamed for it, like you, Saki. And it just pisses them off to no end because they're like, what did I do?
Yeah, like seriously, I had nothing. They just brought you in because you're the closest name possible, and it's just like, yeah, I had nothing to do with it. I don't even know what you're talking about. Thanks.
Leave me out of your troubles that you created.
Yeah. Oh, you know. Any mistakes I have to clean up that aren't mine. Sorry, I should probably clarify that.
Yeah.
That aren't mine.
Oh man, yeah. So yeah, that's another pet peeve of mine. I think a very relatable one too.
Oh yeah. Has to be relatable. I guess one of mine, I guess, is respecting people's time. Because let's say you go for a job interview
Mm-hmm.
and they say, can you come in at 10 a.m.?
Mm-hmm.
And you go, yeah, I could come in at 10. And then you come in at 10:30.
Oh my god, that is the worst.
It's like this person is looking for someone, and you already didn't get the job just because you're late. Like, and vice versa. Let's say you show up at like me, I'd show up at like 9:45,
Mm-hmm.
and then if that person doesn't come out by 10, I'd give them 5 minutes, and if they still don't show up, I'd just walk out. I'd be like, why would I want to work for you if you don't respect my time? I'm respecting yours. You told me to be here at this time. I'm here. Where are you?
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa. You know, the employer could be like, hey, I asked you to be here at this time. How can I trust you if you can't even show up to a job interview on time, you know?
Yeah. Because in the end, job interviews are a two-way thing, not just a one-way lane.
Yeah, or just in general. It doesn't even have to be a job interview. That's just like one example.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to have a group of friends that I don't really keep in touch with anymore because ever since COVID, you know, we just never kept in touch.
Mm-hmm.
But they'd always be like, yeah, let's hang out, let's meet up, because it was like all my old friends from like elementary school and stuff. And you've been friends forever, and so you're like, yeah, let's go meet up. So you're like, okay, let's meet up here at this time, and then like I'm there at that time, and all of a sudden it's like, can we change the time by 2 hours? I'm like, no, you said this time. We all agreed to this time. I'm not changing the hours just because of you. Then
Yeah.
I feel like you just don't show up. You come next time. Like if you all agree to a time, you should be there at that time.
Yeah, definitely.
At least for me. Some people are like, oh, okay, like they'll be like, oh, thank goodness, I haven't even left the house yet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's like, you tell me a time to be there, I'll be there. Like a doctor's appointment. You set up a time for that time, you better be there at that time. Especially if you set it up.
Mm-hmm. And even if you are late, right? At least have the common courtesy to notify the party. Like, if you're gonna be like 5, 10 minutes late, or even 30 minutes late, as long as you give a, reason.
Yeah, be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be late, like, stuck in traffic or something.
Yeah. Or like dog, pooped on the floor, caused a huge
Cleaning up,
mess.
yeah, cleaning up after my pet. I'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
Just at least
Mhm.
know. At least, yeah, notify them to let them know what's going on, so they're not like, well, this guy's a flaker.
Yeah.
Or this girl's a flaker, you know.
Mhm.
Common courtesy.
Mhm.
Just common courtesy.
Yeah. I always try being early to appointments, right? Whether it's hangouts or such. Um, I'm very rarely late. Even if I'm late, it's like usually by only like a couple minutes at most. Um, because in the end, right, you are taking up someone else's time, not only yours, to go do whatever you agreed upon. And to not show up on time, and even worse, not even communicate with that person why or when you're gonna be, like, why you're late, or if you're late, why you're late, and when you're gonna arrive or meet at that time. That's just disrespectful, straight up.
Yeah, like what if you're meeting your buddy for lunch, and they get an hour lunch, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be 20 minutes late. Well, they just lost all that time because of you. Because you already agreed to a certain time, and then you're like, oh wait, hold on.
I have heard horror stories, not like actual horror stories, but like stories where like they have a family, like there's like a group of people, or not a group of people. There's this guy who like has a wife and whatever. They're having like family outings, right? And there's always that one sibling or like one like relative that's always like an hour or two late to every single gathering.
Yeah.
And so like I've heard like stories where like they had to wait at the restaurant for 1 to 2 hours and then they can eat, and it's gotten to a point where they just start eating, and then
Yeah.
when they finish eating and come out, like that family just comes in.
Yeah. I understand that one.
I'm just like, how do you? I feel like those people have to be like almost close to narcissists, right? Where they think the world revolves around them.
Yeah, that sounds pretty close.
Cause ain't no way you become like, okay, maybe 30 minutes it's reasonable depending on traffic, right? Depending on how far they are and everything, it's reasonable to be 30 minutes late to something that has a reasonable uh cause, right? But to be 1 hour to 2 hours late every single time, dude, that's just like on another level of like what the hell, right?
Leave earlier.
And how do you have that like mindset of, oh yeah, it's fine if we show up 1 to 2 hours late? It just doesn't
Yeah,
make
I
any
don't know.
sense.
Yeah.
I feel like the only way you have that mindset is literally you're a narcissist that you believe the world revolves around you.
Like I know people in my family that do that, but like if they're gonna be that late, they just say, just go without me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know someone that does that. That's very fashionably late, as you would probably would say. But that person is known to do that, so we don't expect them to be there on time.
Yeah. Ah, dude. It's just crazy that people can't just keep a promise or an agreed upon time.
Yep. Like, let's say you agree to something early in the morning and you know you're not gonna wake up at that time. Why the hell did you agree to it?
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Alright, I think we'll do probably one more. I believe it's
Sounds
my turn, right? Or is it your turn?
your turn. Mine was the respecting people's time.
Nice, nice. My last pet peeve, right? And it's it's really okay. So it's really like, how do you say this? It's so dumb, like in the sense that it's like, why does this annoy you type deal? It's not like even a big deal in the grand scheme of things. There's like really no issue with it, and I think most people would agree that there's really no issue. But one of the biggest pet peeves I have is when, what's it called? When everything has to become a picture.
Oh god. That already sounds awful.
I genuinely dislike it when you are trying to just like hang out or like have a good meal and everything becomes a picture, right? Like, and don't get me wrong, like a quick like second, right? Like you're like, hang on, like, you know, or like, you know, really quick, can I take a picture? And it's literally just like a 2 second picture, right? Not like, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
But like the thing I hate the most is, let me get a picture and make it pretty.
Yeah, or you take a picture and you're like, I don't look good in that one. Let's take another one. I'm like, no. You just look ugly in that one. Tough.
Yeah, and this annoys me especially when it comes to food, right? Where they have to have, again, pictures of the food in a very specific way to make it the way they want it to look.
You want to know my solution to that?
What is it?
My solution to when, if you're, like, let's say your significant other or your friends are like, oh my god, let me take a picture of the food so I could post it.
Mm-hmm.
I take a spoon or a fork and I mess up the food. Like if it's like a slice of cake or something, yeah, you just take a fork and just stab it, or like take a piece, be like, nope, you don't need to take. No, honestly, no one cares what you're eating. No one cares.
Yeah.
Most people are just scrolling through your Instagram feed or whatever, and they just hit like on everything and just like literally just not even glance at your photo. They just hit like and scroll on.
Yeah.
No one cares about your food.
Yeah. There has been times where I've taken pictures of food, but they're like really quick pictures, and the only reason why I take them is because I want to remember what I ate. In the case that I want to go back.
That's reasonable. But like taking pictures to show off what you ate, God, no, I just ruined the photo for you. I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
I'll do you a favor. No one cares.
If it's to your own food, fair play to you, right? It's your own food. You're not messing with anyone else's food. But when you want to take a group like food photo, whatever, like everyone's food together at once, and you start delaying, that's when it gets really annoying.
Yeah, because now the food gets cold because you couldn't get your dumb photo.
Yeah, it is so. Yeah, that. Some people don't think that's much of an issue in terms of like taking like pretty photos of food nowadays because social media has been very prevalent in many people's lives now. I'm kind of at that like life where like I like social media, but I don't. My life does not revolve around it.
Yeah.
I mainly use social media to communicate with friends. I don't use it to share photos of my life. I don't care or want to share my life online.
Yeah.
And if I do want to share a photo, it's usually in person. So, for me, I would just never understand why you would want to share so much of your life online. I mean, I could understand the steps of getting there, right? But I still cannot understand what exactly is like the actual like driving force other than like the steps of reason, like social media has become an addiction. You see all these people having glamorous lives, and so you try emulating. I'm like, why can't you just? It's just my own like life, right? In the end, I'll truly only understand my own life, and I won't be able to understand anyone else's to the full extent that they do.
Some people just want the attention.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just, I really dislike it when people take up too much time on photos. Especially when they interfere with other people enjoying that time.
Yep. I understand this so much. It's crazy.
And it's just like, and I see other people doing it in public, like just when you go out to eat. There's always granted gonna be at least one person taking a photo of their food and like taking their time to take the photo.
Yeah. Or multiple photos.
Yeah.
For me, the only time I take a picture of food is when I know it's gonna be good. Like when we went to Japan, that's when I started taking pictures of food.
Yeah.
Because I knew it was just gonna be that good.
Yeah. By the way, listeners, if you hear my dogs, I do have dogs. They're barking very loudly, most likely because something outside is moving. But yeah, I have 2 dogs. They're annoying little shits, but I love them. They're my little shits. But yeah. So we're getting close to the end of the episode. Honestly, I feel like a lot of these pet peeves can be agreed upon. But I really do think that a lot of our pet peeves specifically are kind of like, well, except for the driving ones. The driving one's almost like universal in terms of like, it could be agreed upon. But like, I feel like a lot of them like is, especially the last one, taking the photo, is like a generational thing, right?
Yeah. I would. Photos are definitely our generation.
Yeah, definitely. And
I agree with that.
yeah. But, I feel like these aren't like outrageous takes or anything like that, They're like a huge debate will spark. I'm pretty sure most of the people will agree with us.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's gonna be people I agree and disagree.
But to us,
And
it's like, how do you disagree? You know?
in our minds, we don't know how you disagree, but you guys or girls will disagree, and that's perfectly fine
Yeah.
until it isn't. I'm just kidding.
Until it isn't. True. Until it isn't. Ugh. But yeah, if any of you have pet peeves that we didn't talk about, or we didn't mention that you would really like us to know about, or you would like others to know about, let us know in the comment section if you ever want to comment. But yeah, so I'm gonna end the episode here. So I'm Jin,
And I'm Saki.
and this is a Casuals, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.